Misogynistic judge jails a woman for protesting, her comeback stuns the world. The courtroom was stifling, the kind of heat that seemed to crawl under the skin. The fluorescent lights buzzed faintly, casting an unnatural pallor over the scene. All eyes were on the woman standing in the defendant's box, her posture straight, her hands cuffed in front of her. She looked calm, remarkably calm, given the circumstances, but her dark eyes burned with quiet defiance. "Ms. Rivera," the judge drawled, his tone dripping with condescension. He leaned back in his chair, adjusting the robe that seemed too heavy for the summer heat. "Do you understand the charges against you?" Ana Rivera didn't flinch under his scrutiny. She had faced worse, much worse. "I understand them," she said, her voice steady. "What I don't understand is how standing up for what's right can be considered a crime." The murmurs from the gallery were immediate, a low rumble of voices that grew louder by the second. Supporters of Ana sat in rows, their faces a mixture of anger and admiration. Many of them had been at the protest, women, men, students, mothers, daughters, all demanding the same thing, justice. And all of them had seen what had happened when Ana stood in front of the courthouse steps that day, refusing to move despite the threats, the insults, the looming police presence. The judge's gavel slammed down, silencing the noise. "This is my courtroom," he snapped. "And in my courtroom, we follow the law." Ana tilted her head slightly, a faint smile playing at the corners of her mouth. "And what about when the law is unjust?" The judge's face reddened, his lips thinning into a hard line. "Enough," he barked. "This isn't a platform for your activism. You are here because you obstructed a public space, refused police orders, and incited chaos." "Chaos?" Ana repeated, raising an eyebrow. "You mean we were heard?" It had all started weeks ago, a peaceful march through the city that had grown into something much larger. The movement Ana had helped organize wasn't new. It had been building for years, fueled by anger, heartbreak, and hope. Women across the country had had enough. Enough of the discrimination, the harassment, the lack of representation. But it wasn't until that rally, with thousands of voices echoing in unison, that the world began to take notice. Ana had been at the forefront, a figure who inspired both admiration and vitriol. She hadn't wanted to be a leader, it wasn't about her. But when the media latched onto her fiery speeches and unwavering resolve, she became the face of the movement. And with that came the backlash. The judge, Judge Walter Hines, was part of that backlash. He had gained a reputation for his disdain of progressive movements, his rulings often veering into personal bias. But Ana hadn't cared. She knew what she was doing when she led that protest to the courthouse steps. She knew what would happen when she refused to move, even as the police closed in. What she hadn't anticipated was how quickly it would escalate. The officers had been rough, dragging her away as cameras captured every moment. The footage went viral within hours, sparking outrage and support in equal measure. And now here she was, facing a man who clearly relished the chance to put her in her place. Judge Hines straightened in his seat, his glare boring into Ana. "I'll remind you again, Ms. Rivera, this is not a debate. You are here to answer for your actions, not to grandstand." Ana met his gaze unflinchingly. "Then let's get on with it." Her attorney, a young woman named Lisa Chen, placed a hand on Ana's arm, a silent plea for restraint. Ana nodded slightly, signaling her understanding. She didn't want to make Lisa's job harder than it already was. The prosecutor, a middle-aged man with a perpetually smug expression, rose from his seat. "Your Honor, the state has presented clear evidence of the defendant's unlawful behavior. Video footage, witness testimony, all of it points to her deliberate disruption of public order." "Disruption," Ana muttered under her breath. The word was beginning to feel like a weapon, wielded by those who couldn't, or wouldn't, see the bigger picture. Lisa stood, her expression calm but resolute. "Your Honor, my client was exercising her constitutional right to peaceful protest. The charges against her are not only exaggerated, but they also set a dangerous precedent for the suppression of free speech." Judge Hines snorted. "Free speech doesn't give you the right to break the law." "No," Lisa agreed, her tone sharp. "But it does give citizens the right to challenge laws that are inherently unjust." And that's exactly what my client was doing. The judge waved a hand dismissively. Save the theatrics for your closing arguments, Miss Chen. Let's proceed. The trial was swift, the outcome predictable. Judge Hines barely concealed his disdain as he delivered the verdict, guilty on all counts. The sentence, a month in jail, was met with gasps and angry shouts from the gallery. Anna stood silently as the judge ordered her to be taken into custody. She didn't resist as the officers approached, placing handcuffs on her wrists. But as they led her away, she turned back to the crowd, her voice ringing out with unwavering strength. "This isn't over," she said. Not by a long shot. The weeks that followed were a whirlwind. Anna's imprisonment only seemed to amplify her message. Social media exploded with posts demanding her release, and protests erupted in cities across the country. Celebrities, politicians, and activists lent their voices to the cause, calling out Judge Hines and the judicial system for their blatant bias. Inside the jail, Anna remained resolute. She spent her days writing letters, speeches, plans for the movement's next steps. She refused to let her circumstances define her. The guards watched her with a mixture of curiosity and respect. Anna wasn't like the other inmates. She didn't lash out or complain. Instead, she carried herself with quiet dignity, her determination unshaken. One day, Anna was called into a small meeting room where Lisa was waiting for her. The attorney's face was alight with excitement. "We're winning," Lisa said as soon as Anna sat down. Anna raised an eyebrow. "Winning? The public outcry has been overwhelming," Lisa explained. "People are demanding change, real change. And not just for you. They're calling for reforms to the entire system." Anna felt a flicker of hope, though she kept her expression neutral. "That's good," she said. "But what about Judge Hines?" Lisa's smile widened. "That's the best part. There's an investigation into his conduct." The video of the trial didn't exactly paint him in a favorable light. People are calling for his resignation. Anna leaned back in her chair, letting the news sink in. It was more than she had dared to hope for. When Anna's sentence was complete, she walked out of the jail to find a crowd waiting for her. Reporters, supporters, and even strangers lined the street, their cheers echoing in the crisp morning air. Anna paused for a moment, taking it all in. Lisa was at her side, holding a stack of papers. "Your speech," she said, handing them to Anna. Anna glanced at the papers, then shook her head. "I don't need it." She stepped up to the microphone, her voice steady and clear as she addressed the crowd. "This isn't about me," she began. "It never was. It's about all of us, about standing up even when the odds are against us, about refusing to stay silent in the face of injustice. And it's about proving that change is possible, even in the darkest of times." The crowd erupted into applause, their energy electrifying. Anna smiled, feeling a sense of purpose stronger than ever before. As the cheers from the crowd outside the jail filled the air, Ana Rivera took a deep breath, letting the moment sink in. The overwhelming support wasn't just for her. It was for the cause she represented. She saw signs being held high, slogans painted on them in bold letters: "Justice for all," "No more silence," and "Rivera inspires change." It was humbling, but it also reminded her of the responsibility she carried. Lisa Chen, ever the strategist, leaned closer to Anna as they made their way through the crowd. "This is just the beginning," she whispered. "The momentum is ours, but we have to keep it going. There's still a lot of work to do." Anna nodded, offering a wave to the people shouting her name. "I know," she replied. "But first, let's get through today." Hours later, Anna sat in a small, makeshift headquarters that her supporters had set up. The room buzzed with energy, activists on phones, coordinating with media outlets, scheduling interviews, and drafting plans for the next wave of protests. A whiteboard on one wall displayed a list of key issues the movement would tackle, from judicial reform to women's rights. Lisa entered the room, carrying a laptop and a folder filled with documents. "We've been invited to speak at a major rally in the capital next week," she said, her voice tinged with excitement. And I've got requests from 3 different news networks for exclusive interviews. Anna exhaled slowly, running a hand through her hair. It's a lot, she admitted, but we can't afford to slow down. Not now. Lisa gave her a knowing look. That's why I'm here, to make sure you don't burn out. You're the face of this movement, Anna, but you're still human. You can't do this alone. Anna offered a small smile. I know. And I'm grateful for you, Lisa. I couldn't have gotten this far without you. Lisa's expression softened. We're in this together. Always. The following days were a whirlwind of activity. Anna's release had ignited a national conversation, and her message was spreading like wildfire. Interviews with major media outlets gave her the chance to articulate the movement's goals, while rallies in cities across the country drew tens of thousands of supporters. The pressure on Judge Hines and the judicial system was mounting, with calls for his resignation growing louder by the day. But not everyone was on Anna's side. Late one evening, as she prepared for a virtual town hall meeting, Lisa entered the room with a grim expression. We've received threats, Lisa said, holding up her phone. Anonymous messages, mostly. But they're serious. Anna frowned. What kind of threats? Some are targeting you directly. Others are warning us to stop the protests, or there'll be consequences. Anna's stomach churned, but she kept her composure. This isn't the first time we've faced resistance, she said. And it won't be the last. We're not backing down. Lisa hesitated. I know, but we need to be careful. I've already contacted security. They'll be with us at the rally next week. Anna nodded. Good. We'll take precautions. But fear can't be the thing that guides us. If we let it, they've already won. The day of the rally in the capital arrived, and the energy was palpable. Tens of thousands of people filled the streets, their voices blending into a powerful chorus. The stage was set in front of the Capitol building, and banners bearing the movement's slogans waved in the breeze. Anna stood backstage, taking a moment to steady herself. This was the biggest platform she'd ever had, and the weight of it pressed heavily on her shoulders. But she reminded herself of why she was there, of the people she was fighting for. Lisa joined her, placing a reassuring hand on her shoulder. You've got this, she said. Just speak from the heart. Anna nodded, her resolve strengthening. Thank you. As her name was announced, the crowd erupted into applause. Anna stepped onto the stage, her heart pounding as she approached the microphone. She scanned the sea of faces, seeing hope, determination, and a shared desire for change. She took a deep breath and began. Thank you, she said, her voice carrying over the crowd. Thank you for being here, for standing together, for believing that we can make a difference. The applause swelled, and Anna waited for it to die down before continuing. Today is about more than one person or one cause, she said. It's about all of us. It's about the world we want to create, not just for ourselves, but for future generations. It's about saying enough is enough. She spoke about the injustices she had witnessed, the systemic failures that had harmed so many, and the need for accountability. She called out Judge Hines directly, her words unflinching. He thought he could silence me, she said. But what he didn't realize is that this movement is bigger than any one person. It's bigger than him. And it's not going away. The crowd roared, their cheers echoing across the plaza. Anna felt a surge of emotion, but she kept her focus. We have a long road ahead, she said. But together, we are unstoppable. Together, we will create the change we deserve. As she stepped away from the microphone, the applause was deafening. Anna felt a mixture of exhaustion and exhilaration as she returned backstage. Lisa was waiting for her, her expression glowing with pride. You were incredible, she said. Anna managed a tired smile. Let's hope it's enough. In the days that followed, the momentum continued to build. Judge Hines faced mounting pressure, with petitions demanding his resignation reaching hundreds of thousands of signatures. Investigative journalists dug into his past, uncovering a pattern of bias and misconduct that only fueled the outrage. And then it happened. One morning, as Anna sat in the headquarters with Lisa and the rest of their team, a breaking news alert flashed across the TV screen. The anchor's voice was solemn as she delivered the report. Judge Walter Hines has announced his resignation, effective immediately, the anchor said. In a statement released this morning, Hines cited the ongoing controversy surrounding his rulings as the reason for his decision. This comes amid widespread calls for judicial reform sparked by the actions of activist Ana Rivera. The room erupted into cheers, and Ana felt a wave of relief wash over her. It was a victory, not just for her, but for everyone who had fought alongside her. But Ana knew this was just the beginning. The system that had allowed Judge Hines to thrive was still in place, and there was so much work left to be done. She turned to Lisa, her eyes shining with determination. "We're not done yet," she said. Lisa grinned. "Not even close." In the weeks and months that followed, Ana continued to lead the charge for reform. The movement grew stronger, attracting allies from all walks of life. Laws were proposed, policies were scrutinized, and the voices of the people refused to be ignored. And through it all, Ana remained at the forefront, a symbol of resilience and hope. She had faced injustice and refused to back down. She had turned her pain into purpose, inspiring countless others to do the same. As she stood before another crowd, months after her release from jail, Ana reflected on how far they had come. But she also knew the fight was far from over. "This is our time," she said, her voice ringing out over the crowd. "Our time to demand change. Our time to create a better world. And we won't stop until justice is truly for all." The crowd erupted into applause, their cheers carrying Ana's message far and wide. She smiled, knowing that the movement she had helped build was unstoppable. And she would never stop fighting. In the wake of Judge Hines' resignation, Ana found herself navigating a world that had drastically changed, yet one that still bore the scars of the injustice she was fighting to dismantle. The resignation was a symbolic victory, a powerful statement that those in power could and would be held accountable. But Ana knew it wasn't enough to celebrate. The root causes of the issues she'd been fighting against still loomed large. The resignation had sparked ripples across the legal and political world, igniting debates over judicial ethics, systemic inequality, and the true purpose of the justice system. Media outlets continued to follow Ana's every move, framing her as a beacon of hope, but also as a lightning rod for controversy. Those opposed to her movement painted her as dangerous, divisive, and even unpatriotic, trying to discredit her efforts at every turn. But Ana was steadfast. She would not be shaken, no matter how loud the opposition became. She focused on the work ahead, throwing herself into grassroots organizing, meeting with community leaders, and helping draft new proposals for reform. The fight had only just begun, and she intended to see it through. One evening, as Ana reviewed a pile of documents in the headquarters, Lisa entered the room holding a stack of mail. The strain of their work was evident in Lisa's tired eyes, but her determination hadn't wavered. "You've got letters," Lisa said, setting the stack down on the table. "Lots of them." Ana glanced up from her work, raising an eyebrow. "More hate mail?" "Some, yeah," Lisa admitted. "But most of them are from people who support you. Survivors, activists, families, people who've been affected by the same system you're trying to change." Ana set down her pen and picked up one of the envelopes. She opened it carefully, unfolding a handwritten letter inside. The writing was shaky, the ink smudged in places, but the words were powerful. "Dear Ana, thank you for fighting for people like me. I've lived my whole life feeling like the system was stacked against me, but seeing what you're doing gives me hope. Please don't give up. We need you." Ana's throat tightened as she read the words. She reached for another letter, and then another, each one carrying messages of gratitude, encouragement, and shared experiences. "These are incredible," Ana said, her voice thick with emotion. Lisa smiled. "People are listening, Ana. You're making a difference." Ana nodded, a renewed sense of purpose washing over her. "This is why we're doing this," she said. "For them. For all of us." The movement was gaining traction on a national level. Ana and her team had been invited to testify before a congressional committee on judicial reform, a major step forward in their efforts to enact systemic change. The stakes were high, and Ana knew this was her chance to make a lasting impact. The day of the hearing, Anna stood in a hallway outside the committee chamber, her heart pounding in her chest. She was surrounded by supporters, including Lisa, who had been working tirelessly to prepare her for this moment. "You ready?" Lisa asked, her voice calm but firm. Anna took a deep breath, meeting Lisa's gaze. "I'm ready." As she stepped into the chamber, Anna was met with the buzz of whispered conversations and the flash of cameras. The committee members sat behind a long wooden desk, their expressions ranging from curious to skeptical. Reporters and spectators filled the room, eager to witness the proceedings. Anna took her seat at the witness table, her prepared statement resting in front of her. She glanced at Lisa, who nodded in silent encouragement, and then turned her attention to the committee chairperson. "Ms. Rivera," the chairperson began, "thank you for joining us today. Your advocacy has sparked a nationwide conversation about judicial reform. We're here to listen to your insights and recommendations." Anna nodded. "Thank you for the opportunity," she said. "I'm here because the system we have in place isn't working for everyone. It's broken, and it's time we face that truth." She began her testimony, outlining the issues she had seen firsthand: the bias and corruption that permeated the system, the lack of accountability for those in power, and the barriers faced by marginalized communities. She spoke with passion and clarity, her words resonating with many in the room. But not everyone was receptive. One committee member, an older man with a stern expression, leaned forward, his voice sharp. "Ms. Rivera, some would say that your actions, leading protests, defying law enforcement, have contributed to the very chaos you claim to be fighting against. How do you respond to that?" Anna didn't flinch. "I would say that change doesn't come from silence," she replied. "Protests are not chaos, they are a demand to be heard. And when the system refuses to listen, we have to find ways to make them listen." The room fell silent for a moment, the weight of her words sinking in. After the hearing, Anna stepped outside to find a crowd of supporters waiting for her. They cheered as she emerged, their energy lifting her spirits after the grueling session. Lisa joined her on the steps of the Capitol, a satisfied smile on her face. "You were brilliant in there," she said. Anna sighed, a mixture of relief and exhaustion washing over her. "I just hope it makes a difference." "It will," Lisa assured her. "This is just the beginning." The months that followed were filled with both victories and setbacks. Some of the reforms Anna had fought for were passed, while others faced fierce opposition. But the movement continued to grow, fueled by the unwavering determination of those who believed in the cause. Anna became a prominent figure on the national stage, her story inspiring countless others to take action. She spoke at conferences, led marches, and met with leaders from around the world. But through it all, she remained grounded, never losing sight of why she had started this journey. One evening, as Anna sat in her office going through more letters, Lisa entered the room holding her phone. "You need to see this," she said, handing the device to Anna. Anna took the phone and looked at the screen. It was a news article, the headline bold and striking: "Former Judge Walter Hines indicted for corruption." Anna's eyes widened as she read the details. Hines had been under investigation for months, and the findings were damning. He had accepted bribes, manipulated cases, and used his position to further his own interests. The story was a vindication of everything Anna and her team had been fighting for. Lisa grinned. "Justice, finally?" Anna nodded, a sense of closure settling over her. "It's not just about him," she said. "It's about all the people who've been hurt by this system. This is a step in the right direction." As the movement continued to make strides, Anna reflected on how far she had come. She thought about the day she had stood in that courtroom, facing a judge who had tried to silence her. She thought about the nights spent in jail, writing letters by the dim light of her cell. And she thought about the people who had stood by her side, refusing to give up. Anna knew the fight wasn't over. There would always be challenges, always more work to do. But she also knew that change was possible, and that together, they could achieve it. Standing on the steps of the Capitol once more, Anna addressed a crowd of thousands, her voice steady and strong. "We've proven that our voices matter," she said. "We've shown that when we stand together, we are unstoppable. But this is just the beginning. The fight for justice, for equality, for a better world. It's a fight that never ends." And I promise you, I will never stop fighting." The crowd erupted into applause, their cheers echoing through the streets. Anna smiled, feeling the weight of their support and the strength of their resolve. She wasn't just fighting for herself anymore. She was fighting for all of them, for a future they could all believe in. And she wouldn't stop until that future became a reality. The applause from the crowd on the Capitol steps began to fade, but Anna stood there for a moment longer, taking it all in. The faces of the people before her, young and old, men and women, from every background imaginable, reminded her of why she had started this fight. It wasn't about one victory or even one system. It was about building a world where everyone could feel seen, heard, and valued. Lisa approached her from behind, her clipboard in hand, her expression both proud and exhausted. "You've got about 15 minutes before we head to the next meeting," she said softly. "Unless you want me to reschedule." Anna turned to her, smiling faintly. 15 minutes is fine. I'm good." Lisa studied her for a moment, then nodded. "All right, but promise me you'll actually eat something this time. You've been running on fumes all day." "I'll grab a snack," Anna promised, though she wasn't sure she'd have the appetite. There was too much to do, too much at stake. Later that evening, Anna found herself sitting in a quiet corner of the headquarters, flipping through more letters from supporters. Each one carried a unique story: a woman who had faced discrimination at work, a young man who had been unfairly targeted by the justice system, a family who had struggled to find closure after losing a loved one to police violence. The weight of their words settled heavily on Anna's shoulders, but it also fueled her determination. One letter, however, caught her eye. It was written in neat, careful handwriting, the ink slightly smudged in places. The writer introduced themselves as a young girl named Sophia, just 13 years old. "Dear Ms. Rivera," the letter began. "I don't know if you'll ever read this, but I wanted to thank you. My mom says you're brave and strong and that I should be like you when I grow up. I think she's right. My brother was hurt by the police last year, and it made me really sad and really mad. But when I see you on TV, it makes me think maybe things can get better. Please don't stop fighting." Anna's heart ached as she read Sophia's words. She folded the letter carefully and set it aside, making a mental note to write back. She couldn't help but wonder how many other young people like Sophia were watching, hoping, believing that change was possible. The following weeks were a whirlwind of activity. The movement continued to gain momentum, with rallies, speeches, and meetings filling Anna's schedule. The pressure to maintain that momentum was immense, but Anna refused to slow down. She knew that every day mattered, that every conversation, every decision, could shape the future they were fighting for. One of the biggest challenges they faced was the proposed Fair Courts Act, a bill that aimed to overhaul the judicial system by introducing stricter accountability measures and addressing systemic biases. The bill had gained significant support, but it also faced fierce opposition from powerful figures who saw it as a threat to their control. Anna became one of the most vocal advocates for the bill, working tirelessly to rally public support and pressure lawmakers to act. She met with community leaders, gave impassioned speeches, and participated in countless interviews to highlight the importance of the legislation. But as the vote on the bill approached, the opposition grew louder and more aggressive. Attack ads targeting Anna aired on TV and spread across social media, painting her as a dangerous radical who wanted to dismantle the justice system. Politicians who opposed the bill accused her of being out of touch with real Americans, while others sought to discredit her with baseless claims. The attacks took a toll, but Anna refused to be intimidated. She had faced worse before, and she wasn't about to back down now. One evening, as Anna and Lisa prepared for a televised debate about the bill, Lisa's phone buzzed with a notification. She glanced at the screen, her expression darkening. "What is it?" Anna asked, sensing the tension. Lisa hesitated before showing Anna the screen. It was a news article, the headline bold and accusatory. Leaked emails raise questions about Anna Rivera's campaign. Anna frowned, skimming the article. It accused her of receiving illegal funding for the movement, citing anonymous sources and vague evidence. It was clearly a smear campaign, but the timing couldn't have been worse. "This is a distraction," Anna said firmly. "They're trying to undermine us before the vote." Lisa nodded. "I know. But we need to address it before it spirals out of control. They spent the next few hours drafting a statement, refuting the claims with clear evidence and calling out the tactics of those trying to discredit the movement. Anna knew it wouldn't be enough to silence her critics, but she also knew that staying silent wasn't an option. The night of the debate arrived, and Anna took her place on the stage opposite one of the bill's most vocal opponents, Senator James Lockwood. Lockwood was a seasoned politician with a reputation for being combative, and Anna knew he wouldn't hold back. The moderator introduced the debate, outlining the key points of contention surrounding the Fair Courts Act. Anna listened intently as Lockwood began his opening remarks, his tone sharp and dismissive. "This bill is nothing more than an overreach," Lockwood said. "It's an attempt to undermine the integrity of our justice system and give activists like Ms. Rivera more power than they deserve." Anna waited patiently for her turn to respond, her expression calm but determined. "Senator Lockwood talks about integrity," she began, her voice steady. "But where was that integrity when people like Judge Hines were allowed to abuse their power for years? Where was that integrity when communities across this country cried out for justice and were met with silence?" The audience was silent, hanging on her every word. "This bill isn't about giving me power," Anna continued. "It's about giving power back to the people. It's about holding those in power accountable and ensuring that the justice system serves everyone, not just the privileged few." Lockwood tried to interrupt, but Anna didn't back down. "Change is never easy," she said. "But it's necessary. And the people of this country are demanding it." The debate continued for over an hour, with both sides presenting their arguments and counterarguments. Anna held her ground, refusing to be swayed by Lockwood's attacks or the pressure of the spotlight. By the end of the night, it was clear that she had made an impact. As the vote on the Fair Courts Act drew closer, the tension reached a boiling point. Supporters and opponents of the bill flooded the streets, their voices filling the air with chants and slogans. The stakes couldn't have been higher. Anna watched the proceedings from a packed room at the headquarters, surrounded by her team. The atmosphere was electric, a mix of hope and anxiety as they waited for the results. When the final vote was announced, the room erupted into cheers. The bill had passed. Anna felt a wave of relief and pride as she hugged Lisa and the others. It was a hard-fought victory, one that had taken everything they had. But it was worth it. The passage of the Fair Courts Act marked a turning point, both for the movement and for Anna personally. It was a testament to what could be achieved when people came together to demand change. But Anna knew the fight wasn't over. The bill was just one step in a much larger journey. There were still countless battles to be fought, countless voices that needed to be heard. As she stood before yet another crowd, addressing the people who had made it all possible, Anna's voice rang out with conviction. "We've proven that change is possible," she said. "But this is only the beginning. Together we will keep fighting. Together we will build a better future. And together we will win." The crowd roared in response, their cheers a powerful reminder of the strength they held as a united force. Anna smiled, knowing that no matter how difficult the road ahead might be, she wouldn't be walking it alone. The victory of the Fair Courts Act had been monumental, but Ana Rivera didn't allow herself a moment of complacency. The energy in the streets, the voices of the people, the hope she had seen in their eyes, it all fueled her resolve to keep pushing forward. Laws might change, but attitudes, systems, and deeply ingrained biases didn't shift overnight. Anna knew that the real work was just beginning. In the weeks following the passage of the bill, Anna's face was everywhere, on the news, in magazines, and across social media. Some called her the voice of justice, while others vilified her as a dangerous agitator. She had become a lightning rod for the national debate on judicial reform, and the weight of it all was unrelenting. One night, as she sat alone in her modest apartment, Anna allowed herself a rare moment of reflection. The letters she had received, the crowds she had spoken to, the grueling debates, all of it swirled in her mind. She thought of Sophia, the young girl whose letter she had read weeks ago. Anna had written back to her, pouring her heart into the response, but she often wondered if Sophia had ever received it. Her thoughts were interrupted by the buzz of her phone. She glanced at the screen. Lisa's name appeared. "Hey, Lisa," Anna answered, her voice tired but warm. "You're not going to believe this," Lisa said, excitement crackling through the line. "You've been invited to speak at the Global Justice Summit in Geneva." Anna blinked, caught off guard. "Geneva? As in Switzerland?" "As in the international stage," Lisa confirmed. "They want you to talk about the movement, the bill, and the broader fight for justice." "This is huge, Anna." Anna leaned back in her chair, processing the news. The idea of taking her message to a global audience was both thrilling and daunting. "Do you think I'm ready for something like this?" she asked. Lisa's voice softened. "Anna, you've been ready. You've faced worse than a room full of world leaders. This is your chance to show them what we're fighting for, and to remind them that justice isn't just an American issue. It's universal." Anna nodded slowly. "All right," she said. "Let's do it." The weeks leading up to the summit were a whirlwind of preparation. Anna and Lisa worked tirelessly to craft a speech that would resonate not just with the attendees in Geneva, but with people around the world. They knew the stakes were high. This wasn't just about raising awareness, it was about inspiring action. As the day of the summit arrived, Anna found herself on a plane bound for Switzerland, staring out the window at the endless expanse of clouds. She thought about how far she had come, from that courtroom facing Judge Hines to standing at the forefront of a national movement, and now preparing to address a global audience. Lisa sat beside her, going over last-minute details. "You're going to be amazing," she said, sensing Anna's nerves. Anna offered a small smile. "I just hope they listen." The summit was held in a grand hall, its towering ceilings and gleaming chandeliers a stark contrast to the gritty streets where Anna's journey had begun. Delegates from dozens of countries filled the seats, their chatter a low hum of anticipation. Anna sat backstage, her heart pounding as she waited for her name to be called. Lisa was beside her, as always, a steady presence in the chaos. "You've got this," Lisa said, giving her a reassuring squeeze on the shoulder. Anna nodded, taking a deep breath. She had faced hostile judges, combative senators, and relentless media scrutiny. This was just one more challenge. When her name was announced, Anna stepped onto the stage, the spotlight blinding her for a moment. She approached the podium, her hands gripping the edges as she looked out at the sea of faces. The room fell silent, the weight of expectation palpable. "Thank you," Anna began, her voice steady despite the nerve she felt. "Thank you for inviting me to speak today. It is an honor to stand before you, representing not just myself, but the countless people who have been silenced, ignored, and marginalized by systems that were supposed to protect them." She paused, letting her words sink in. "My journey began in a courtroom, where I stood as one voice against a powerful system. But what I've learned is that justice cannot be achieved alone. It takes all of us, raising our voices, standing together, and demanding change." She spoke about the movement, the victories they had achieved, and the battles that lay ahead. She emphasized the need for global solidarity, for a collective commitment to justice that transcended borders. "Justice is not a privilege," she said. "It is a right. And it is our responsibility to ensure that no one is left behind." As Anna concluded her speech, the room erupted into applause. She felt a wave of relief and pride as she stepped away from the podium, her heart still racing from the adrenaline. Backstage, Lisa greeted her with a grin. "You crushed it," she said. Anna exhaled, a smile breaking across her face. "Let's hope it makes a difference." The summit marked a turning point for Anna and the movement. Her speech went viral, reaching millions of people around the world. Messages of support poured in, as did invitations to collaborate with activists and organizations from other countries. The fight for justice was no longer confined to one nation. It had become a global movement. But with the newfound attention came new challenges. Anna found herself under constant scrutiny, her every word and action dissected by both supporters and critics. The pressure was immense, but she refused to let it deter her. One day, as she prepared for yet another meeting, Lisa handed her a small package. "This came for you," she said. Anna opened the package carefully, revealing a handwritten note and a small bracelet made of colorful beads. The note was from Sophia, the young girl who had written to her months ago. "Dear Ms. Rivera," the note read, "thank you for writing back to me. It meant a lot. I made this bracelet for you because you remind me of a superhero. My mom says you're not just fighting for justice, you're fighting for people like me. Thank you for being brave. Love, Sophia. Tears filled Anna's eyes as she held the bracelet in her hands. It was a simple gesture, but it carried so much meaning. She got your letter, Lisa said softly. Anna nodded, slipping the bracelet onto her wrist. This is why we do what we do, she said. For Sophia. For everyone like her. As the years passed, Anna's work continued to evolve. She became a powerful advocate for systemic change, working with leaders and activists from around the world to address issues of inequality and injustice. Her journey was far from over, but she faced each new challenge with the same determination that had brought her this far. One evening, as Anna stood on a stage addressing a crowd of young activists, she reflected on how much had changed and how much still needed to be done. We are the change, she said, her voice ringing out over the crowd. Each and every one of us has the power to make a difference. And together, we can create a world where justice truly means justice for all. The crowd erupted into applause, their cheers echoing into the night. Anna smiled, feeling a deep sense of fulfillment. Her journey had started in a courtroom, but it had taken her far beyond those walls. She had found her voice, her purpose, and her power, and she knew she would never stop fighting for what was right. The years rolled on, and Anna's work only deepened in scope and intensity. The grassroots movement she had helped ignite had grown into a sprawling, international network of activists, policymakers, and community leaders. Everywhere Anna went, she saw the fruits of their labor, not in grand, sweeping gestures, but in the subtle changes: more women stepping into leadership roles, fairer sentencing laws being passed, and communities learning to trust in systems that were finally starting to work for them. But the road was still riddled with obstacles. The backlash Anna faced, though quieter than before, never truly disappeared. Old systems of power were resilient, and those who benefited from the status quo did not let it go without a fight. At times, the opposition was subtle, fewer donations coming in, delays in key initiatives, but other times, it was blatant and vicious. One such moment came during an international conference Anna had been invited to in London. The event was billed as a gathering of global reformers, a space for sharing ideas and strategies. But as Anna walked into the elegant conference hall, her attention was immediately drawn to the protesters gathered outside. Their signs were loud and accusatory. Ana Rivera, destroying justice. Don't let activists run the courts. Justice, not mob rule. Ana had learned to steel herself against such attacks, but seeing those words still left a small crack in her armor. Lisa, who had accompanied her as always, placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. Same old tactics, Lisa said. They want to rattle you. Don't let them. Ana nodded, her expression firm. I won't. The conference proceeded as planned, with Anna delivering a keynote address that once again captured global attention. She spoke about the importance of collaboration across borders, the need to dismantle systems of oppression wherever they existed, and the power of ordinary people to effect extraordinary change. Her words were met with applause, but as she stepped off the stage, she was approached by a journalist from a major news outlet. Ms. Rivera, how do you respond to critics who say that your activism undermines the very institutions you claim to be reforming? The journalist asked, her tone sharp. Ana took a breath before answering. Criticism is part of the process, she said. What I've learned is that the people who benefit from broken systems will always try to frame change as chaos. But reforming institutions doesn't mean destroying them. It means making them better, stronger, fairer, and more just. And that's a fight worth having, no matter how uncomfortable it makes some people. The journalist seemed satisfied with the answer, though Ana could tell the comment would be dissected and spun in countless ways once it aired. Still, she stood by every word. As Ana and Lisa returned to their hotel that evening, they found themselves reflecting on the journey that had brought them to this point. Do you ever think about where it all started? Lisa asked, pouring herself a cup of tea from the room's small kettle. That courtroom, that judge? All the time, Ana admitted, sitting on the edge of the bed. Sometimes I wonder if I'd still be fighting this fight if it hadn't happened the way it did. Lisa smirked. Oh, you'd be fighting. It's in your blood. The judge just lit the match. Ana chuckled softly, but her thoughts lingered on those early days. She thought about the fear she had felt, the uncertainty, and how much had changed since then. She also thought about Sophia and the countless others whose lives had intersected with hers in ways both profound and fleeting. "It's bigger than me now," Anna said, almost to herself. "It's always been bigger than me." Lisa nodded. "And that's why it works. People see that. They see your heart, Anna. That's why they follow you." Months later, Anna found herself back in her hometown for the first time in years. She had been invited to speak at a local university, where a group of students had organized a justice reform symposium inspired by her work. As she drove through the familiar streets, memories flooded back, some painful, others bittersweet. The event was held in the university's auditorium, and the turnout was larger than Anna had expected. She took her place on stage, looking out at the eager faces of the students before her. "Thank you for having me here," she began, her voice steady. "Coming back to this town is a reminder of where it all started for me. I stood in a courtroom just a few miles from here, facing a judge who tried to silence me. But instead of silencing me, he gave me something far more powerful, a purpose." She spoke about the importance of staying true to one's values, even in the face of adversity. She encouraged the students to find their own causes, their own battles to fight, and to never underestimate the power of their voices. As the event came to a close, a young woman approached Anna, her eyes bright with admiration. "Ms. Rivera," she said, her voice trembling slightly. "I just wanted to say thank you. You're the reason I decided to study law. I want to fight for justice, just like you." Anna smiled, her heart swelling with pride. "Thank you," she said. "But remember, you don't have to be like me. Be yourself. Fight your own fight. That's how we change the world." Over time, Anna's role began to shift. She moved away from the front lines, focusing instead on mentoring the next generation of activists and leaders. She established a foundation dedicated to advancing justice reform, providing resources, training, and support to those carrying on the work. One day, as Anna sat in her office reviewing applications for the Foundation's latest fellowship program, Lisa walked in holding a familiar envelope. "You're not going to believe this," Lisa said, handing it to Anna. Anna opened the envelope, her eyes widening as she read the letter inside. It was from Sophia, now a young woman in her 20s. "Dear Anna," the letter began. "I don't know if you remember me, but I wrote to you when I was 13. You wrote back and it changed my life. I'm writing to you now as a first-year law student, hoping to follow in your footsteps. Thank you for believing in me when I didn't believe in myself." Tears filled Anna's eyes as she read the words. She folded the letter carefully and set it on her desk, her heart full. "She's going to be incredible," Lisa said, smiling. "She already is," Anna replied. As Anna's work continued to evolve, she remained a steadfast advocate for justice, always finding new ways to amplify the voices of those who had been silenced. Her journey was far from over, but she faced the future with the same determination that had carried her through every challenge. One evening, as she stood on a balcony overlooking the city, Anna reflected on the path that had brought her here. She thought about the courtroom, the protests, the victories, and the setbacks. She thought about the people she had met, the lives she had touched, and the legacy she was building. And as she looked out at the city lights, she felt a deep sense of peace. She knew that the fight for justice was never truly finished. But she also knew that together, they were making progress. And that was enough.